Space is endless. We as human beings now know this. What we also know, unequivocally, is that we know nothing about it. It is unknown to us. What you see here is the tear of a warrior, someone who knew one thing. He might not be strong enough to make it where he's going, but he'd rather die on the way there than not go at all. We'll come back to him. He's important, and to one man, so is the everything else. When you're creating something, if you get all your inspiration from one medium, from one source, it's going to lack originality and creativity. I'd imagine this Shinichiro Watanabe quote could be applied to 100 things that you've seen in your lifetime. And it circles back around to that ship floating in endlessness. And importantly, I know it can apply to many things in mine. You can pinpoint it. The moment you know you're watching something you feel like you've seen before. That feeling of disinterest that creeps over you so quickly that it can catch you off guard. And while I don't know you, yes, you, behind that phone or keyboard, I am certain that I know one thing about you. See, what I know is that you, yes, you, did not get that disinterested deja vu the first time you watched this. Shinichiro Watanabe is the biggest inspiration for literally everything I do artistically. Without Watanabe, this channel doesn't exist, that music you hear when I make a Nerdstalgic video doesn't play, and you aren't hearing my voice here at all. And that might be most interesting because Watanabe is a weird dude. I believe samurai in the Edo period and modern hip-hop artists have something in common. Rappers opened the way to their future with one microphone, samurai decided their fate with one sword. That Watanabe quote, referencing his work on Samurai Champloo, should be everything you need to know about this guy. To call him an enigma would be to undersell his personality greatly. He is indeed weird, but what's important for this piece isn't necessarily who Shinichiro Watanabe is, but why he created this thing that you see on your screen right now. See, Bebop wasn't the result of a man wanting to direct an anime. Bebop was the result of that man, as he put it himself, wanting to make an anime that destroyed the norms to make something unconventional. Now, to be clear, that particular attitude in art is typically a one-way ticket to catastrophe. Anytime someone creates something unusual or attempts to be original simply for the sake of doing so without purpose, you get something with as little soul as the trite retread that they were attempting to avoid. It just ends up being a little weirder. But when you create around the box with purpose, then it starts to matter that you aren't in it. And that analogy is about structure, which is where Bebop lays the foundation for everything that makes it different, and frankly, the foundation for so much of current media. Bebop's episodes typically, with some exceptions, adhere to a relatively similar structure. I point this out not as a negative, but as context for what it does within that structure. Part 1. The crew of the Bebop, individually or together, happen upon a bounty, or sometimes just a character of interest worth tracking down. We've usually never met this new character before. Part 2. We get the motivation for tracking down the aforementioned bounty, if it isn't simply Wulongs, which is Bebop speak for money. Part 3. We track down the bounty, and this is where the Bebop structure starts to take shape. Part 4. We discover that this bounty, which is nothing more than a MacGuffin, which is a device used ubiquitously in modern film, and often horribly, that can be best described as a gotcha item meant to move the plot forward. But here we realize it's more than we thought. Bebop is a rare example of understanding the purpose of a MacGuffin beyond the literalism that it is. Which leads to part 5. The layers of our MacGuffin reveal nuance. The Bebop crew's bounty isn't the bad guy we thought they were. Instead, they become vehicles through which individual members of the Bebop, or the collective, process their own experiences and emotions. Part 6. In turn, we learn something new about Spike or Faye or Jet, and suddenly the bounty doesn't matter, which is good because, part 7, our MacGuffin has become much more, and thus the bounty usually doesn't get turned in at all. Instead, someone either loses their life, thus the character disappears, or is set free on their own path with a few exceptions. The goal never being much of a goal at all, and usually not being fulfilled. And finally, if we're lucky, in watching session 13, Space Lion plays the episode out. Seriously, this track is phenomenal, but we'll get there. And that all essentially covers the structure of a good majority of Bebop's run. So why does it work, beyond just having a mature understanding of the MacGuffin concept? I think that starts here with something quick and simple, and that's non-serialized serialization, which I know sounds a little oxymoronic. Bebop is technically not a serialized show, meaning each episode tells a self-contained story, and in theory, you could hop in anywhere and enjoy an episode, hop out, and have had a good time. But I don't think Bebop is as traditionally non-serialized as other shows of its kind. See, what Bebop really is more than anything is the emotional journey of Spike, Jet, Faye, and Ed. What that in turn means is that jumping in randomly, treating each episode individually, you lose a lot of the story that's really being told. And in some ways, you miss crucial information that makes pieces of that story matter. If you skip Ballad of Falling Angels, Jupiter Jazz might be a little less impactful. Point is, Watanabe and in turn Bebop understand something that so few pieces of media even today get right. Every moment doesn't need to be in service of narrative momentum, but every moment does need to service character momentum, for as long as you're telling a story that's character-driven. Bebop manages to be both a piece of serialized and non-serialized media successfully and simultaneously as a result, but it's in its consistency where it separates further from its contemporaries. In all of Watanabe's work, but particularly Bebop, one thing stands out amongst the list of superlatives constantly thrown in its direction: mood and tone. I'm combining them for the purpose of this piece. Cowboy Bebop, for all its action, its gunfire, its dogfights, is maybe the most quiet and reflective show you'll ever see. It's okay in silence, it's okay being patient, even slow at times. It is never in any rush. It can easily be described as relaxed. Characters are rarely yelling, instead they choose their words, and better yet are careful about when they speak at all. In turn, words have impact.
It's about the Sunstone.
Sunstone? What's that?
The direction, the day, and the time you arrived were all the best combination for feng shui.
The action takes cues from early samurai films. It is fast, it's loud, but it's typically brief. It's over before you know it, and thus it too has impact. Characters die, there's weight, gravitas to every moment they're on screen. As a result, we know this is a universe that understands meaningful consequence. Therefore, those characters have impact. In turn, Bebop carries with it an identity that is so consistent and so gorgeous that it permeates each and every element of its being, simply through consistency and in its tone of gravitas. Bebop is comedy, it's action, it's science fiction, but most importantly, it's friendly and wants you to know it's real. It works tirelessly to keep you comfortable, to not overwhelm you, and to make you smile, so you eventually have a reason to be sad. And nothing articulates this mood and tone better than this. I've spoken a lot here about Jupiter Jazz, the 12th and 13th episodes of Bebop, and that's because in my opinion, even more so than Ballad of Fallen Angels, it best articulates everything that makes the show so unbelievably special. But more pertinently, I think it best thematically encapsulates what's so special about its creator, Shinichiro Watanabe. His willingness to understand risk, to not just take it, but understand the purpose of it within art, is what really makes his work, specifically here, so unique. Space is endless, and Watanabe and Cowboy Bebop understand that emptiness and the risk of attempting to cross it. If you're going to take a risk of any kind, if you're going to attempt to chart a new way through your space, whatever it be, understand what Watanabe did, what Bebop did, and what Gren did. That the trip means nothing if you have no idea what you're trying to find when you arrive. Have purpose, understand it before you chart your course, because it's better to die the tear of a warrior than to lose sight of what you're taking your artistic risks for, only to never be seen in the stars at all. Well guys, that's it for today's episode of Nerdstalgic, something that I truly love. As always, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button down below. If you haven't yet done so, also hit subscribe. That way you won't miss anything, and hopefully I will see you guys in the next video.